Thank you everybody for joining us today. We're today going to look at the next session in our Level Up series and within the sub-series of Step Up Your Rate Plan, part 3, which are steps 4 and 5 of the rate plan setup. So we're going to take about 15 minutes today to go through the different elements. For a housekeeping perspective, we are recording the session. We will send it out to you afterwards, and you'll also be able to access it via our client hub if you need to. And I'll be answering questions at the end of the session today. So please use the Q&A option within Zoom to ask questions. If you don't have a question now and you think of one later, please get in contact with us and we'll be delighted to help out afterwards. So the aim today is to make sure that you're fully aware of how these options work within the step 4 and 5 of the rate plan, how they can apply to you, and from a technical perspective. So just as it happens, step 4 and 5 are a little bit more technical than step 1, 2, and 3 have been. So Peter and Sarah have done a great job with those over the last couple of weeks. I won't have as many best practices because it's more just how these work today. And I suppose the thing I'm going to focus almost on is floating rates, which is one that we get a lot of questions about. So the 7 areas I'm going to look at today are prepaid rates, central availability, as I said, floating rates, and that's going to be the biggest chunk of it, active room types and active URLs, notification emails, terms and conditions, and rate plan badges. So let's get started. So for the prepayment rates, on step 4, this is the first option we see. If you don't have this enabled on your booking engine, please do get in touch and we'll turn it on for you. It allows you to denote if a specific rate plan is payable at the time of booking. So you'll see here, I have just a snapshot of how it looks on the reservation form. So it'll highlight if it's payable now, what the full amount of the booking, total price is, and balance payable. If your rate plan isn't prepaid, it's the other way around, where payable now is 0 and the balance payable will be the full percentage of volume of the rate plan. So excluding any deposits. So this highlights on the reservation form. Now, please note that this option doesn't mean that payment is taken automatically. You do need to have a merchant account set up with us, or set up and us have it linked to your booking engine for automatic payment to be taken. If you have any questions on that, please let us know and we can advise what is set up. Or if indeed you want to set up a merchant payment, we work with Global Payments, Elavon, Stripe, SagePay. So if you set up an account with any of those, let us know and we can get that set up on your booking engine for you to take prepaid rate plans and also to take voucher payments as well. Vouchers is probably where it really comes into its own, especially around Christmas time. The second option then I want to look at is pull from central availability. So as you see here, it's the second option on step 4. This allows you to link availability between rate plans to work from one set of inventory on your site. So, So basically, essentially, if you don't have a channel manager, this will be of use to you. So if, for instance, your main rate plan, it pulls from your default rate plan. So if your default rate plan was your room only rate and you had 50 rooms in your hotel, and you wanted to load the 50 rooms to the booking engine, and you wanted to also feed your bed and breakfast, your knitter bed and breakfast, your 2BB1D, etc. rate plans from this one set of availability. So you didn't have to divide the availability among all the rate plans. This is how we manage it. Most hoteliers are now using channel managers. So for the most part, channel managers manage this themselves within their system. But every good rule has an exception, and DEdge only works on central availability with NetAffinity. So if you're using DEdge, you have to have this set up for the rate plans to match. But most other channel managers manage it themselves, and then they send us individual availability for each rate plan. So really, the option in the booking engine, if you're using it to manage it on its own, it's really if you don't have a channel manager. Otherwise, with the exception of DEdge, manage it in your channel manager. Next is floating rates. So floating rates, again, if you have a channel manager, we recommend you manage it in there. And the reason that is so that you're managing all your rules in one place, like your central availability, your minimum length of stays, your closeouts, etc., etc. So you have it in one place. It's easy for you to manage, and you're not having to remember what's between the two systems. And then you're ensuring that they're all feeding through to your other channels correctly as well, and maybe you're possibly from your PMS also. So with the floating rate, in the past, we only had this functionality to float from your default rate plan. But we have added the functionality to add to float from a second or third or several rate plans. The only limitation to that is you can't float from a rate plan that's already floating. So once you've selected a rate plan to be floating and you've set it up and it's saved, it won't appear here in the list for another rate plan. So you physically can't do it anyway. So I'm going to go through now a few permutations of how you can set up floating rates. So basically, pick the rate that you want to link it from the drop-down. And then we manage the how we're changing supplements within the fixed supplement, adult, child, and all the occupant supplements from there. So starting off with a nice simple example, if you're going to do like an advanced purchase rate at 10% off or a percentage off sale, you just add in pick your room, your rate that you're pulling from, do your fixed supplement. Here you have an option between percentage, fixed rate, or none, or no. So you just pick your percentage and do minus whatever it is. If you put it in percentage 10, it would add 10% to it. So you're much more likely to be creating a rate plan that's a percentage off. That's how you do it. So in my example here, I actually put 10% here and 15% there, but basically it'll give you a €100 rate. If you're deducting 15%, it'll give you €85. So then the next kind of simple example would be if you're wanting to create a bed and breakfast rate pulling from room only. So you have your room only rate, and then you want to add €10 per adult for the cost of breakfast, or €5 per child, for example, and we can extrapolate that out for whatever occupant types you have set up. So it adds it based on the maximum number of occupant types in that room. So if you have your room set up for maximum 2 adults, it'll add €20 if you're doing it at €10 per adult. Or if you had a triple room and you had it set up with maximum 3 occupants, it would add €30 to that. And then your additional occupants adds it per person. So if you go into the rate section, then when you have it set up and pulling through, and you select your additional occupant from this second drop down, you'll see it adds in the rate per person here. So if I'm setting it up, I pick my room, my rate I'm pulling it from. My fixed supplement in this instance I leave as blank, and then I put in €10 per adult and 5 or 15 or whatever it is per child. So for your next option is your dinner bed and breakfast. So say for instance I wanted to add €10 for breakfast per adult and €25 for dinner. You're loading your supplements on a per night basis once they're flat rate. So what you do is you add your 10 and 25 together. I'm noticing my maths is slightly wrong on this one now, just as course as happens when you start to display it. But you'll add it, my maths is right here. So 10 and 25, you add in your floating rate of 35 here. Now, if you're going to do a 2BB1D option, you're adding in your supplement per night. So my rate plan is for 2 nights. So I take my €10 per breakfast per night and €20 for dinner on one evening. So I add it all up, 2 breakfast for 2 nights and dinner for one night, totals per person €45 over the 2 night stay. And then I need to divide that in 2, so it's a per night rate. So that makes it $22.50. So it's adding on 2 breakfasts and 1 dinner. And then it's the same thing for 3BB. So you take, say for instance, I'm going to do 3BB1D. So 3 breakfasts plus 1 dinner makes me €55 per person over 3 nights. Divide that by 3, I get 1833. It's not a round number. So I put in my 1833 and then I use the round floating rates option. So that will help. You don't end up with a 0.99 rate plan or rate, you end up with the full euro above it. Now, another thing what we can do is if you have your rooms, your rate plan set up to be floating from your room only, and you have your bed and breakfast floating room only, but you want to do an advanced purchase bed and breakfast rate plan, because you can't float a rate plan from a rate plan that's already floating. We have a workaround of this. So say if I wanted to do advanced purchase bed and breakfast at 15% off, and my usual cost of breakfast is €10. What I'd do is I'd set up my 15% off from the room only as I would a regular advanced purchase rate. And then I'd add the adult supplement at the discounted rate. So what this will do is take off €15, but then add $8.50 for breakfast, which is breakfast less 15% onto it. So that's a workaround for that. So 2 very important points when it comes to floating rates is you see the option here for recalculate all rates. Once you make an amendment to an existing rate plan for the floating rates, you need to tick this and let it, in order for the system to push through the change of rates. If you don't tick this, the system won't push through the change of rates until you actually individually update rates on individual dates. You don't need to select this only if it's a new rate plan. The system will apply the floating rates as is. So for existing rate plans, always remember to tick this. To be honest, to be on the safe side, tick it so that it makes sure it pushes it through. It will calculate it based on the dates here in the date range, which defaults to the next 365 days. So I took this screenshot on the 20th. So if you need to shorten that down, you can. If you need to make it longer, you can. So if you had your rate plan set out until the end of 2022 already, you can do that. Just bear in mind to allow about 5-10 minutes for the rates to push through, because we are sending 365 rates multiplied by however many room types you have set up as well. So just give it a few minutes. Don't expect it to be updated straight away. Yes, and then we have the option for rounding floating rates, as I said, with the 3BV1D as an example to use it. So that option will, if a rate comes through as slightly odd, it'll round it up to or down to the nearest whole number to make it easier for the user to read it. So the next section is active room types and active URLs. So this, to be honest, does what it says on the tin. If you have setting up a rate plan and you only wanted to apply, for instance, a family rate plan to your family rooms, only tick your family rooms, or if you had, say, self-catering rate plan, you only wanted to hit to your self-catering units, only tick those ones. And then your active URLs. A lot of you will remember in the past we used to have a separate mobile URL. Google forced their hand to remove that. So for the majority of you, you will actually only see, say, your hotel website or your desktop site here. You may have additional ones for consolidators. For instance, if you're working with Ireland's Blue Book or Select Hotels or some of the Ireland hotel sites, they'll be there. Or if you have your own additional URLs, for instance, for services, for if you're using services module for spa, it might be highlighted as that, or for self-catering or anything like that. So just to make sure of the URLs which it applies to. Then we have the option for a notification email. So what this does is it copies another internal email address on the hotel notification of a booking coming through. So this is what they'll receive. For the hotel notification. It just has the iBooking ID, the source, and the dates. It doesn't have any personal information from a GDPR perspective. Whoever you're including on the email address will need their own booking engine logins to view it, to log in. We can set that up where they can only view bookings, so they can't make any changes to rate plans or anything like that from a security perspective and a peace of mind, but they will need their own logins from a GDPR perspective. This works really well for like spa or dining or golf bookings. For instance, if you had a spa rate plan and you wanted the spa to know when a booking came in so that they could get in touch with the guest to confirm the treatment times. If you are in the situation where you want someone to receive a copy of every confirmation email that comes through, someone who isn't on the main reservations or reception email address, we have another way of doing that in the config. So get in touch with us with your account contact, and we will set that up for you. You don't need to put that manually into every rate plan, so that you can keep this clear for rate plans like your spa dining that you just want to send to those departments in your hotel. So for rate plan specific terms and conditions, you can add this in on step 5 of the booking process for terms and conditions that are specific to the rate plan, that only apply to that rate plan. For instance, your advance purchase, non-refundable, non-amendable, non-cancelable rate plans. How this will work is it will appear on the guest booking confirmation. So it'll appear under the rate plan name here, and then your full hotel terms and conditions will appear at the bottom. But also it'll appear in the booking engine. So you know when you're going through the reservation stage and at the bottom you have an option to open up the terms and conditions. This is how it'll appear here. Be a bit more information than this. I've literally just filled in on the 2 boxes what is which, so you can see how to display here on the example, and same with the example confirmation email here. If it's not applicable, leave it blank. It won't appear on either. But you be careful, I suppose, if you have your advance purchase rate plan that has non-cancelable, but then you have your general hotel rate, terms and conditions that say you can cancel up until 48 hours. Do highlight in your general ones unless otherwise specified on the rate plan, so that there isn't any confusion when you're reading the 2 sets of terms and conditions together. And then finally, we'll go look at rate plan badges. So these are an additional little piece of information, a badge here we can add to each rate plan on the special offers page and on the check availability page to highlight a specific USP for that booking, or for that rate plan, sorry. So for instance, the example here we add this one for COVID, free cancellation, no prepayment, to make it really super clear. Same day cancellation, book now, pay later. And I have a screenshot of all the examples here, so you can put in free Wi-Fi, percentage discounts, flash sale, prepaid rate, etc., etc. You can just set 1 per rate plan. And while my example here has 3 different rate plans altogether with rate plan badges on it, that's just for example. We do recommend you don't add it to every single rate plan. because it stands out less the more rate plans you have on. So if you have it on every single rate plan, it means that it's something will appear on all rate plan. It makes the user less likely to notice it. And especially don't put the same one on all rate plans. So don't put free cancellation on all rate plans, because the user just naturally won't see it then if that's the case. So be very strategic with how you add them to the booking engine, or how you add them to the rate plans, and review it from the front end. Always be checking everything from the front end to make sure you're happy with how it looks. So that's it, and that's everything I wanted to go through today. We have a few minutes for questions, so just give me 1 second here till I read them and we'll go through them. Okay, so one attendee has asked a very good question here. If I set up a prepaid offer and you have merchant services set up with yourselves, where does the money go? Straight into our account or DNA account, or do we have to access the system and extract the payment? So if you do not have a Global Payments, which used to be Relax, or Elavon or Stripe account, we do not take payment for prepaid bookings. You will have to manually take payment at the hotel. You have to view the credit card's details on the system and take payment through your terminal or to whatever other system you have. So NetAffinity doesn't take any payments for vouchers or bookings on behalf of hotels. If you do have your own merchant account, so you do have Global Payments or Elavon or whichever, it'll go into your Global Payments or Elavon account. And then depending on the settings you have with them, I think if the payment is taken before midday, it's in your bank account the following day. If it's taken after midday, it's 2 days later. So I suppose NetAffinity take no payments on your behalf. So the automatic payment will only be taken if you have your own merchant account, and then it goes into your merchant account bank number. If you're at any way unclear about this, please do talk to your account contact, because it's something that is very important when one's budget or money is involved in this sense. So we will be very happy to clarify that for you. And then Etna in Hotel Westport has asked, is it best to set up a floating rate from the channel manager or from the booking engine? I would always say your channel manager, so that you're managing all your rates in the same way. So say, for instance, you have your room only rate as your default, your bed and breakfast is, you're pulling out as €10 extra per adult. Set that up in your channel manager so that it's managing the same way then across all your different channels. And then you can apply rules, for instance, to take 10% off on NetAffinity, and so you're selling it a little bit higher on your OTAs. And also, as I said, it's very important to make sure you're managing it all in the one place. So if you do make a change to a rate plan in 3, 4, 5 months' time, you don't forget that actually you have this set up in NetAffinity, and then you don't realize for a couple of weeks that that is actually displaying it incorrectly. So that's why I would recommend, if you are managing it, if you have a channel manager, manage it in your channel manager. There may be some channel managers with specific setup that you can't do that. Again, if you have any doubts, please contact us and chat with your channel manager on it, and we will clarify for you. Great. Great, I'm just going to triple check if there's any more. In regards to notification emails, would, for example, SPA get the cancellation notification in the bookings as well? Yes, they do. That's a very good question. They do get the cancellation email as well, that they'll know to cancel the treatment. But I would, I suppose, double check, maybe have an end of week check for your SPA that you send through. Okay, these cancellations were made this week. Make sure you have the treatments cancelled out, just to be on the safe side that you're not going to miss out on anything and cause issues or overbookings or underbookings either. Great. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for the fantastic questions. As I said, please let us know if you have any more. Contact us through clientsuccess@netaffinity.com or get in contact directly with your account contact. Thanks a million, and see you all soon.